What's going on, people? Welcome back to another video. My name is hughwizzy and you're watching, or perhaps listening to, a podcast in which we're going to be talking about all things Arsenal, the banner, and where we go after Arsene Wenger. Now, we've got a few different guests. I thought it would be best to ask fans that go to home and away games, but have different views, different perspectives on all of the matters that we're going to talk about. So it should be an interesting one. Settle down, get the popcorn out, and let's get into it. First up, we're going to be talking to FK about his thoughts on the banner.
I understand the frustration amongst the Arsenal fan base. You know, obviously we were promised so much after the move to the new stadium with all the money and our chief exec coming in and saying that we could compete with the most elite clubs in Europe, etc., etc. Clearly, we've not delivered a league title, and I think a lot of fans are getting frustrated by that. And I think, you know, it's completely fair and reasonable for someone to expect change at the club. However, the timing of the banner and just the way that we went about it, you know, we've just beaten Hull to go through to the quarter-final of a cup that we've won 2 times on the bounce. I'm sure people don't need reminding of that, but that is the fact that we're en route to Wembley for maybe a 3rd cup win in a row. I just think it's distasteful, and I think it's disrespectful to who I think is the greatest manager Arsenal Football Club have ever had. And I take particular issue here with the timing of it because, you know, there's all these fans who kind of react pretty much knee-jerk after every defeat. You know, every kind of other weekend we maybe don't get a result that we would have planned, and, you know, everyone just loses their control. And, you know, we're, like you said, mathematically we're still in the title race. I still feel we've got a faint chance. You just never know. You know, the cup-wise, we could go on to win another cup, and I think it just makes us look silly as a fan base if we go on to actually go on and win a trophy. I mean, for me, the best time to display such a banner would be when you are dumped out of the competitions and when you have got no realistic chance of winning it. So, you know, the last home game of the season, perhaps, if there's nothing to play for, then it's the perfect time to express your opinions. I mean, I don't disagree with the fact that fans are allowed to express their opinions. You know, whether you pay or you don't pay to go, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But I just think the timing was wrong, and I think the message is distasteful.
And what are your thoughts on that, Mo?
In terms of the banner, I don't really like the banner. I think it is disrespectful in a very, like, kind of stealthy way. You know, it's a bit sort of, it's disrespectful not because it's swearing or abusive. It's disrespectful because it's incredibly patronising and, like, quite insulting. You know, I feel like if I was Arsene Wenger and my family saw that, it'd be a bit embarrassing for me. And, you know, the way I see it, if it was aimed at Ivan Gazidis or if it was aimed at Stan Kroenke, then fair enough. You know, it's not that they've accrued that much goodwill with us fans, but Arsene Wenger has. For me, he's accrued so much goodwill that I wouldn't like to, you know, embarrass him or disrespect him in public. But the fact is, I kind of challenge myself afterwards to, you know, if I'm coming out saying that this is disrespectful, I kind of challenged myself to say, okay, well then they've got a right to voice their frustrations or to express themselves. And if they want to do that through a banner, I understand that, because where else are they going to get the opportunity? It's not like they can sit down with Arsene or the board or anything. So how could they have worded the banner? What better way could they have done it? What classier way, less disrespectful way? And surprisingly, I couldn't think of anything.
And now let's hand this one over to Claude.
The banner, I tend to agree. I don't think it was really disrespectful in a way. I mean, people might say it was disrespectful. I don't know. But the sentiments I agree with, because the only thing I would say, there was an argument between Ian Wright and DT the other night about the banner going up. I can see both points of view, if you understand where I'm coming from, because I respect both of them. You know, I've got some sort of respect for both of them. I don't even know how I see that banner. I see that banner whether it was right to use it after a win or whether it's right to use it after a defeat. I mean, DT is a very passionate fan, and I'm a passionate fan, right? We want change, but the thing is, we respect what Wenger's done. I definitely respect what Wenger's done in the past, but I want change. And I think I said the end of last season, and I quoted the saying, I thought, if you'd gone out on winning the FA Cup, you'd gone out on a high and would have been well respected for it. Listen, we could still end up winning the league, a very, very poor league, and the FA Cup is still possible. But I still think There still needs to be a fresh change. It just doesn't seem to be working. The players don't seem to me at the moment. They don't seem to respond to it.
FK.
It's not the first time we've seen the banner, and it definitely won't be the last time, I'm sure of that. I question the timing because, like I say, it's in the middle of a campaign or towards the end of a campaign in which that we've got a chance of winning one, if not two, pieces of silverware. I just think the right time would be when the club is completely out of any competitions that it's kind of going for. There is a statement to be made at that point, and I think the fans are perfectly entitled to express their frustration. But in this case, Hugh, we're 9 games away from a possible league title. I know it's an outside chance, but there is a chance. People would have written us off in 89, I'm sure, but you've just got to keep going until it's over. And of course, the cup around the corner. I don't want to say it again, but we could win the FA Cup 3 times on the bounce, and it does amaze me how football fans kind of particularly Arsenal fans, dismiss the FA Cup as an achievement these days. It's almost as if they've forgotten that we've only won it 12 times in 130 odd years. So, it's disappointing to see in my personal point of view at this stage of the season, but I can understand the frustration. I don't think it's just the right way to go about it.
No, in the 9 words included in the banner, it seems to be all on his shoulders, when it, to me, looks much more complex and, like you say, probably needs to go for like a whole club flushing as far as board level goes.
I look at Arsene, and this is where I have Arsene Wenger is a fantastic guy, yeah. Don't get me wrong, yeah. But what I'm seeing, and you can look at him and you watch him on the touchline, he looks like he just can't do more anymore. He looks a man that needs a break as well. Do you know where I'm coming? I mean, I've spoken to him a couple of times, and he's a wonderful guy. And I hate all this. I don't like all this personal abuse he's getting either. I mean, let me get that clear. But we've got to think of the club in general, at the end of the day.
Right then, next up, I want to know whether you guys think Arsene Wenger should be sacked at the end of the season if we fail to win the league.
Well, first and foremost, for anyone who doesn't kind of know me, my stance on Wenger, and it's important that I kind of stress this because you'll understand my answer, but my stance on Wenger is that I think he's the greatest Arsenal manager we've ever had, and I'm very much in the Wenger-in camp. However, if Arsenal were to finish below, let's say, Leicester and Tottenham this season, and we don't go on to win the third FA Cup, then whether you love Arsene Wenger or not, he will deserve the sack. And that's quite a bold statement from me. I'm sure people who listen to your show regularly, who may be aware of my views on social media, they might be thinking, wow, that's a bit of an admission. But the facts are that Arsene Wenger has developed and nurtured this project for some time. We are in a position now where we have unquestionable wealth. We are in a position where our rivals seem to be weakened with the transition periods that they're all in. And we are in a position where Tottenham and Leicester have kind of come out very, very unexpectedly, and they've taken the season by the scruff of the neck, so to speak. And I know there's a long way to go, and there could be further changes at the top. But as things stand, if the league were to finish the way the standings are now, it's virtually impossible to defend, because he's gone into the season having not touched the majority of our transfer budget. He's added deliberately just a goalkeeper and a central midfielder. And so he's kind of almost made his own bed, I guess, Hugh. And I'd be gutted to see him go. I am desperate for him to lead us to either some sort of a trophy this season, and for the sake of the fan base, maybe walk away with his head held high. But to answer your question in a long-winded way, if we were to finish behind either of those two and not win a trophy, then love him or not, he does deserve the sack.
I respect, and this, I've got 100% what he's done for this club. No one can imagine. Yeah, let me say that, right? He's achieved great things for this football club. Yeah, but maybe it's time for him, and maybe it's time for the club to go in a different direction. But that's not to say what he's done in the past has not been magnificent. It has. But when I see that performance at Man U, and I see performances like that throughout the season, I start to wonder whether these players are responding to him anymore.
If Arsenal go now, from this point on, 9 games remaining, go and get 27 points out of it, and Leicester, who are 8 points ahead of Arsenal, go and get 20 points out of theirs, so they win the league by 1 point. And in these last 9 games, Arsenal go and win each of these games 5-0 and go on that sort of run, but lose out in the league by 1 point to Leicester. I mean, are we in our right minds going to say, no, Arsene Wenger should get fired? And what if he wins the FA Cup alongside with it as well?
I mean, to play devil's advocate, I think that's exactly what people are saying. I think what people are saying is it's time for change. It's time for fresh ideas. And
I agree with that, Hugh. But to say that Arsene Wenger should be sacked if we don't win the league is a ridiculous thing to say, because there's a lot of other variables that go with that.
I just find it quite bewildering how goalposts seem to be being moved. First people wanted a title challenge, then they wanted a trophy, then they want the league, then they want the league, but then they still want him to go. What seems to be a major issue is this feeling of dictatorship. Now, I've literally just like half an hour ago been looking at this Sloan Sports conference at MIT, and Stan Kroenke is talking, and he's being quoted as...
Whoa. What did you say?
Stan Kroenke has been talking today at the Sloan Sports conference.
I can't wait to hear his voice. He's not silent for once. Wonderful. I'm going to have to tune into this.
Well, one of the quotes is, Arsene Wenger has an economics degree and runs our club very, very effectively. And it's causing a little bit of a stir, the words that he's using, because it seems to be playing into the hands of what people are arguing.
Look, I don't think the whole problem is Wenger. It's Arsene Wenger. So I think there's got to be structural changes. What I would have loved from Arsene Wenger would be that he just concentrated on his coaching and get a director of football in to do. But he wants to do everything, and I don't think that works. When Hillwood got rid of Dean and brought in Kroenke, the man Hillwood never wanted in the... I've got a thing that it said that he would not allow the man into our football club, right? And then allowed him to come in. That was the worst thing, and I think Wenger should have resigned then out of principle. I'm sorry, but his hands were tied from that day.
And that ties in wonderfully with my next question, which is, do you believe that any new manager will be allowed to change the club's spending policy?
It's a great question, Hugh, and it's one that is very, very difficult to answer. And I'm not trying to escape the question by any stretch, but I do think that there is a lot of confusion about who actually controls that transfer budget. I think amongst the fan base, we come up with our own theories, which can be quite poisonous. You know, fortunately, I would describe myself as having a sizable following on Twitter. So if I say something, sometimes people can take that at face value and just appreciate that that's the truth. And there's a lot of people out there who've got their own theories. They say something, and a lot of people just kind of assume that it's fact. The reality is that very, very, very few people are privy to what goes on inside the football club, and accordingly very, very few people will actually know the decisions that are made and how the money is spent and what permission is given to whom to go and do it. Ultimately, Arsene Wenger as Arsenal manager will take accountability for that. But what bothers me is just that lack of transparency. I think there's a real sort of haze. You know, people just aren't sure. So for me to say, oh yeah, a new manager would come in, I can see him blowing all the money that we've got, I don't know. I don't know whether Gazidis is pulling the strings to say, look, you've got a budget, Arsene, but we only expect you to spend 20%, 30% of it this window.
Yeah, that's another thing that needs to change. We need to... It's not going to just happen. Let's put it this way. It's not going to just happen with a change of manager. There's got to be a change of structure. I think we've got to decide to go like European and go with a director of football and a coach that just does coaching, and that's it, coaching. Not decides on transfer fees and not decides on anything else, just actual head coach. That's what we need, like they do in Europe, mate. You know, because you live in America, you know what Kroenke is all about.
He's got a terrible reputation over here.
Well, exactly. His clubs are not divided. How many of his clubs in America are successful? Or are they there just to put money in the bank for it? That's what you've got to look at. And he's doing that to our club as well.
Truth is, Hugh, no one knows the answer to that question. But for me, the one thing that stops me from being even though I really do sympathise and understand where people are coming from when they want Arsene Wenger out, I really, really don't think any less of them for having that viewpoint. I sympathise with it, but the thing that stops me joining that camp is because I've got absolutely no faith that any other man can come into that role and not face the same mediocrity or acceptance of mediocrity and the same level of ambition, which isn't very high, unfortunately, at our club, and just the same challenges and problems that Arsene Wenger currently faces. So I don't think that another manager is necessarily the answer. I think the real limiting factor in Arsenal's success comes higher than Arsene Wenger. I think the problem is bigger than Arsene Wenger. I personally believe that if another manager comes in, my gut instinct is not much will change in terms of our spending policy. It's going to have to be a huge name and a really, really ballsy character. Someone like a Pep Guardiola. You know, I'm in England for X amount of years. I've got a plan. I want to achieve success. This is my legacy. I think we need someone who's a little bit more selfish than what Arsene Wenger has been. Because Arsene Wenger has been very accepting and very accommodating of the board's, the owners' wider ambitions with the club, which I believe are, greatly financially motivated rather than just football motivations.
That's about all for this time. If you're liking the videos and whatnot, smash the hell out of the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you tomorrow for another video. For now though, I've been hughwizzy, and this has been a lot of fun. Peace.